You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Telecommunications Board. The Telecommunications Board is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the third Thursday of each month. This board advises the City Council regarding telecommunications issues and assists city staff with the administration of the city's public access, education, and government television channels. And now, the Telecommunications Board.
Well, with that good timing, I'll go ahead and call the June 20, 2013 meeting of the Fayetteville Telecommunications Board to order. Call the roll. Pennington's here. Mr. Smith? Here. Mr. Shepard?
Here.
Mr. Goggins? Not here. Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Spearman got caught on an airplane. And Mr. Eric?
Here.
All right. We'll move into...
Did he sneak aboard?
I don't know. I think they've had to cut back their budget. We'll move into approval of the minutes from the May 2013 meeting. Everybody's had a chance to look at those.
I move we dispense with the reading of the minutes and approve them as submitted.
Second.
On motion by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Eric. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. The ayes have it. Move into approval of tonight's agenda. If there was anything else to add.
I'd like to add a resolution of gratitude for the service of 3 of our members who are going to be going off the board.
Any objection? We will add it. Motion to approve the amended agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Eric and second by Mr. Spencer. All those in favor say aye.
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 Yeah, noes. The ayes have it. We'll go ahead and add, we'll get to the resolution immediately. Mr. Smith?
Mr. Chairman, I would propose a resolution with several glowing whereases and give thanks to the selfless and dedicated service of Mr. Shepard and Mr. Spencer and Mr. Goggins for their time on the Telecommunication Board.
Agree with that? Are you nominating yourself to draft that?
I will.
You have a way with words.
Cut and paste.
Yes. We'll probably be getting to that come August.
Okay.
But yeah, I will
prepare it for your signature.
All right. And with that, definitely a thank you to Aubrey, Greg, and Michael for serving on the board these last years. Has been fun. And we'll miss you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on behalf of the City of Fayetteville, I would also like to express my gratitude to the gentlemen. Fortunately, Mr. Goggins is not here this evening, but Mr. Spencer and Mr. Shepard have shown quite a very large amount of dedication, and their contribution to our efforts and their contribution and their advice over the time that they've served on Telecommunications Board has been invaluable, and we certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the Television Center and Government Channel report. Mr. Giesler.
The first thing I'd like to talk about tonight is, as I was going through the minutes, and I'm not going to say, unfortunately, I wasn't here last month. I missed you guys, but I was able to participate in my daughter's high school graduation, which was a great thing. So we're really happy about that. I was looking through the minutes, and I noticed that there was quite a discussion last month about emergency alert and emergency notifications, things like that, and what was going on in that situation, and how the city's television channels contribute to that. And I wanted to make sure that I clarified some things, just to make sure that things were very accurate from this standpoint. Where we are with that is my understanding that as a federal regulation, multi-channel video providers like AT&T and Cox are required to provide local emergency information, and they have an emergency alert system incorporated into their systems that is designed to interrupt programming. We've had noticed in the past some issues with Cox Communications, basically brought to our attention from viewers, that there have been times when the EAS, the emergency alert system, has activated on Cox and it just blanks the screen, and there was nothing there. While there was supposed to be something there was nothing there. That was brought to their attention, and I sincerely hope that they have gotten those things fixed. But because of that, even if we had the capacity to do something similar on the government channel, that would have been blanked out too. Because the way the cable system's EAS works is it blanks out the channel feeds and interrupts them. Many times they will also have something crawling across the bottom. And to that extent, we are working on the technology at this point in time to have a consistent and continual weather information on the government channel, so that will be a good source of information for people. However, we don't have any provisions for automatic emergency alert on the government channel. And the reason that we don't is because the providers like Cox and AT&T are required to do so. So if an alert comes from Civil Defense or the Weather Service or some other emergency alert system that they are tied into triggers, their system will trigger that off. And it would preempt anything we were doing on the government channel as well. So we didn't see the necessity for investing in very expensive equipment to deal with that. So that's where that is with the government channel and such. Now there are other emergency alert systems that the city is looking at that would also incorporate text messaging, email. We do some of that now, but there are the IT department, along with the communications department, is exploring some good options to enhance that service for the citizens of Fayetteville and to make sure that it works well in conjunction with the county and other cities around here. So I wanted to clarify that a little bit and make sure, and also if anybody has any more questions about that, to give an opportunity for us to discuss that some more.
So basically, even if you had an emergency system and that flashed up on the screen, assuming the other emergency systems would also kick in, it would just flash over whatever.
It would preempt ours, yeah.
Okay.
Now, we do have, we have the capability to put messages on the screen now, and do some overlay messaging and such like that. And we can do that. But that is, and we've done that sometimes to get messages out about the city offices are closed due to weather.
Okay.
Things like that. So.
We're not required by law to have that?
We are not, no, because the cable system has it.
Okay.
We do every month, we look at our viewership reports, the numbers that we can pull. First up is the spreadsheet that I put together that shows the total viewership. It just seems to be kind of bouncing around a little bit. I think we're starting to see a little bit of reduction in viewership only because the people are starting to school's out, people are starting to take advantage of the being on vacation, students out and things like that. And then of course, the month of May is very full with a lot of things that people are interested in, graduations, end of school year, those kinds of things. So I think that might be one reason why we're seeing somewhat of a reduction in our government channel viewership on Granicus. But we're also looking at maintaining a pretty steady viewership on YouTube for those things. Top of the charts for some reason for last month for our Granicus was the Telecommunications Board from April. But I say this every month, and I still find it to be a very good service that we provide this residents and the viewers, people in Fayetteville that are interested in being involved in their government. And then from the YouTube standpoint, oh, by the way, we had a total of 457 views of programming on Granicus in the month of May. As far as YouTube goes, 1,366 views. We had a net increase of 5 subscribers to our YouTube channel. and estimated 3,000 minutes watched, which is a really interesting metric that I'm glad that they've started to that they introduced. It's estimated, but it gives you a much more clear view of how much information people are consuming. You know, Bike to Work Week was a real high interest subject. And then what was done here at the city for the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail has also been watched. That was watched 54 times in the month of May.
What's the RBNFZ KMF?
That is what happens when a program was on the system and then it got deleted. We took it off the system, but it was out there. So the system, when I pulled the metrics, it didn't know what, it had the numbers out there, but it didn't know what title it was. And we've been doing some cleanup on our YouTube channel, taking some things out that were outdated, or that for one reason or another. Sometimes people leave the city, and if, for example, we had a Mayor's Corner program on that had Chase Gibson, who is no longer with the city, but he was the Director of Recreational Programs for the Parks and Recreation Department. If somebody leaves like that, we don't want to continue to have programming on there that shows Chase Gibson as the Director of Recreation Programs, because he's not anymore. And we find that we consider that to be misleading to people. And so while we keep that programming in our archives, we'll have it forever. We just don't want people getting confused where they might see this person as the director of the library and then this person as the director of library on two different programs.
Yeah, but, Mr. Chairman, yeah, that is a historic, it's a matter of history that that person was there and saying those things, and those facts are important. So it wouldn't say you could have a disclaimer, Chase is taking a new job or something, Rogers. But
That's where that weird
what-
title came from, those weird numbers. We don't have anything of note. We just are moving along, no complaints, nothing out of the ordinary going on at the television center. Just going through and producing programs and trying to get the word out about meetings and giving people the information that they need.
All right.
Thank you.
Questions? Not, we'll move on to Dan Robinson for our public access provider report.
Good evening, gentlemen. May was a quieter but productive month at the Television Center. I think across the board we also felt, I think it was the first time that we actually felt a downtrend, but very clearly in conjunction with the cyclical cycle of the university schedule. So interestingly enough, we took the opportunity to kind of assess our spring, our successful spring, and we also took the opportunity over the holiday to have the floors stripped and waxed at the Television Center, which may not have been very exciting to some people, but we found it to be incredibly exciting. As I can attest, that the floors looked brand new. It was amazing. And we took the opportunity to clean the facility to a new level, removing all the furniture and bringing it all back. So that actually, and we rearranged the furniture a little bit in the office to make it more accessible. And so it was a wonderful opportunity to freshen things up while we had the lower traffic.
Well, I thought, I mean, the year-to-date figures are very good, and certainly on the class participants and producers. The only thing that causes me any concern is the drop-off in short takes, which I assume is partially not being an election year, but
Right.
but other than that, I'm puzzled on it. I would like to give a shout out to Ward 2 for leading in all three of the categories. We are a bunch of rowdies.
Yes, we continue to push and inform people that it's there. And I believe that we should keep it there. I believe it will have seasons where it is more used. I think that's a great observation about the election year. I think we probably would see more traffic. We're finding new ways to define it for people and finding new people to make aware of it, and just hoping that someone will take hold and utilize the great resource.
And, Mr. Chairman, did you manage to get some on the square last week? There was a rumor you were out there.
We were out there on the square, and I was going to get to that in a bit, but yes, we were able to have a booth on the square. I can just tell you that having sat at the booth for the 4 hours, there was a great amount of interest in the resources we had available. There was a great amount of interest in the classes. There was not a great amount of interest about being on camera. People, even interestingly enough, they had things to say, but then I said, please have a seat, and then that changed everything. So Mr. Giesler and I talk on a regular basis about the fact that it takes a particular type of courage to want to be on camera and to communicate yourself on camera. And I actually threw out a challenge to the Omni Center via Facebook in the last 2 weeks, mentioning that very thing, that it's one thing to talk on Facebook about your convictions, but it's another thing to come say something on television. And that's what we're here for, is to support those First Amendment rights. So yes, we do what we can and hope that people utilize it. I feel like it's still a wonderful resource, and we do have nonprofits that come in that utilize it. Arts Live has utilized it this year more so than we've seen them use it in the past. So we do have local organizations that are utilizing it, and I feel like it's still a valuable resource. Another great pocket of people that we've seen utilize it is musicians. We've had more musicians come in this year than I think we've seen previously that see it as a resource for being able to share their talents with an audience and make people aware of how they can find out more about their work. We just wish we had more of them.
Well, there's one possibility. You mentioned musicians on the square.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get close enough to lose the background material coming in.
Yep.
Those guys are amazingly good, some of them.
They really are. And the farmers market is just a wonderful community, and in my opinion would be worthy of its own public access show if we had a user who found that passion, and I think it would definitely provide lots of really interesting and colorful material. So training overall was down, but we did have an interesting circumstance that I wanted to highlight in that for the first month, as far as we could remember, we did not have any orientations. It was fascinating that we didn't have any brand new faces come through the door. But what we did have was people who had been oriented and who had even taken previous classes graduate additional classes. So as far as our metrics goes, it shows an interesting thing in that we did have people graduate classes, but we didn't have anyone starting their program in May. I can tell you, spoiler alert, that in June, things pick right back up, and it's very exciting. It's been wonderful to see people coming back through, and we've had full classes. So it'll be fun to talk about that in August when we have the opportunity. As far as certification activity goes, I think a notable point is that longtime public access users Richard S. Drake and Charles Roberts took our updated studio certification in its accelerated format, which is 2 4-hour sessions to be updated on our new equipment. And it was very encouraging to see them graduate into this next level of equipment. And as a matter of fact, today they shot their first new program in quite some time. So since the renovation of the studio in particular, I think it's really nice to see these programs coming back into production that have been pillars of public access. And there's another fun note about that under production activity as well. We had our first official tornado evacuation in the middle of recording One World View. And I have a slight error here. We actually,
Appropriate.
yeah, exactly. That's kind of funny. I have a slight typo here. We actually checked them out the camera after. It was several days after that they came out and checked out. We did an immediate evacuation at the moment. The good thing is, Mr. Giesler and I were able to pull up, which we had not had really an opportunity to, I would say, or a reason to pull up our procedures for emergency evacuations and that sort of thing, and make sure that we and the staff were aware of all of our policies on procedures during emergencies. So hopefully we won't run into that problem again.
It's an interesting situation to try to manage when you have a city facility, but it's being utilized by the public, and there are times when your media staff is there and there are no city employees, no city staff at the facility. So we are relying on your media staff to handle these kinds of emergency procedures and things if something comes up. We have a very extensive emergency procedure document that was developed with guidance from our fire department and other people that are internal that deal with everything from severe weather to fire and other types of medical emergencies and things like that. So it was really good. It's always good to be reminded that we need to stay brushed up on our procedures, and we recognize that we have the safety of the public that's in our building in our hands when those kinds of things are occurring. So that was a good opportunity to review that beforehand, and then it worked like it was supposed to.
Everyone was safe.
Yes.
And the programming went on. But provided a very interesting show because it started out in the television studio and ended in their kitchen. So, kind of a
Yeah,
dual.
for that program, yeah.
As far as equipment utilization goes, it was also down a bit in the month of May, but I think it is kind of interesting to see that as far as the year-to-date comparisons go, we're still right on track pretty much. As far as feedback and complaints goes, this marks the 17th month running without a formal complaint. And the thing that I'd like to highlight about that is that over the course of the last 6 months, as we're looking at 2013, we have been adding programming. We've been adding lots of programming in the grand scheme of things. Lots of new shows, new producers, fresh faces, and the fact that we are able to provide this resource and have not had the controversial material and the issues that we have had previously, I think really indicates that people are utilizing this resource in a more positive and productive fashion. So I think it's really nice that we are continuing to add programs and people are recognizing that it is in fact a good, positive community resource.
You know, the variety and diversity of programming on the public access channel is greater than probably almost any time in its history. We have programs that are being brought in that everything from, we have a program called the Not Too Stuffy Law Show, to there's a guy that in his garage that shows people that, you know, demonstrates how to do real easy to do woodworking projects, to religious programming, short takes, entertainment programming. Some of this stuff is being brought in from other markets. People are bringing it in, what we call an import program. It's out from outside programming, but the diversity of programming on the public access channel is just amazing. There's something there for everybody.
I was pleased to see, and this is the first time I can remember in quite some time, that inside programming was a greater percentage of the programming than outside.
Yes, that is
Heartening.
good.
That's also, I think, absolutely a great thing. We're seeing more people come in and doing just some stuff that is really interesting and exciting stuff to watch and interesting information. And they're realizing that, you know, you don't have to produce something that could win an Emmy to do something that's really, really neat. You know, we're seeing programs from people that are trying to do historical preservation or someone, you know, we had folks shooting video down at the Block Street party and bringing it in and saying, hey, let's play this. And those kinds of things are what this channel is doing really well.
It's very exciting. We feel like that provides a window to the community, which is really what we hope the public access channel can serve as. So in that regard, as far as programming goes, I believe we are seeing the benefits of the new submissions and the new programming strategies implemented by your media. We have received positive feedback on the gradual yet noticeable changes we are making to the types of programs played over the course of the day. The goal is to make a more cohesive and interesting viewer experience and to encourage people to tune in on their computers with our streaming service. The service provider is also working to improve and expand the content of our YouTube channel to provide more public access programming in an on-demand format. So that will allow us the benefit of also having some metrics that we can present as far as video on-demand viewership. And we're making a specific effort to connect the people in the community with the content that they produce on via social media outlets. So we let people know on their Facebook when things are playing and how they can, and making sure that their respective followings and communities understand how they can connect with the material, either through Cox, AT&T, or the live stream, which is the one that I can attest seems to catch people the most. I tell people there's a channel available on cable, and the thing they say to me is, I don't have cable. And then the very next thing I get to say is, well, you can tune in online. And then that instantly opens the door back up. Instantly they're interested. And then being able to put that link right on their Facebook so that they can just click a button and there's Fayetteville Public Access Television. I'd say it's more accessible in a way than it's ever been. So that is the way that we are expressing it to people in specific. And then as far as promotional activity goes, our Facebook page is up to 165 likes. When I came on in November, we were sitting at 24. So we have had a nice increase there. And then we have had a wonderful, wonderful support within the community as far as people sharing posts, and the city of Fayetteville also stepping up and reposting our posts. In the last 2 weeks, specifically about our teen media camp, which we're having next week at the Television Center. When we posted on Facebook about that, the city of Fayetteville picked that up and reposted it for us, which was wonderful. So it's nice to see the social network working in our favor. And then the trifold flyers are also working very well for us. We have people taking them, and then we seem to be getting a response from them. And then we did have a wonderful time last week at the farmers market, sharing these resources and the things that we have available with the public. It was wonderful. And next week will be our teen media camp. We're very excited. We currently have 4 in the camp, and we're hoping that we might get a couple more, but even with the 4, we will be able to produce a show, and then those teenagers will be certified to utilize the resources. So we're hoping that that will plant some seeds for them so that we can have users that continue into the future.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if we might want to share more while we're here on how that works and where people sign up and what all happens with folks. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Well, all of the information is available on our website at yourmedia.org. We have a summer camp tab, and you click right there, and there's full information and the registration form. We will be teaching 13 to 17-year-olds from 9 a.m. to noon, so they'll come in for the morning. We're going to take 4 days. It's going to be Monday to Thursday, and over the course of those 4 days, we will teach them about all the different roles that they can serve in a television crew, teach them how to plan a show, and then lighting techniques, camera techniques, all those things necessary, and then together they will make a program that we would then televise. And then we will be able to also get great behind-the-scenes footage of them making the show, which we will, I think, have interviews and that sort of thing, so that we will be able to produce a piece about the camp that would be able to air on the channel as well. So yes, that.
And that starts on what date?
This coming Monday,
And that's
24th.
24th.
Yep.
When this airs, it may be gone, but for
Yep.
some people,
Yes.
notice it.
So 24th through the 27th, 28th. We'll be doing teen media camp. So that's why I would say that concludes our May report. We're very excited to talk about June, because June will be a great month to talk about. Yeah.
So the May slowdown is something that's happened year after year, and I appreciate us having the data to back up, y'all aren't doing something wrong down there, it's just the cycle of the year.
Yep.
And it gives you an opportunity to reflect on the past few months and plan for the next few months. So I'm really glad we continue to get the numbers, and that your numbers continue to improve over time.
Thank you.
Y'all are both doing a good job. You just behave when we're not here next month. Did have one question about the government channel. Filming of the nominating committee, interviews and deliberations?
No, we've never done that. And that would have to be something that, I know that in the past, it was expressed that there was some hesitation because of the type of committee it is, although it is a public meeting. And that would be something that I certainly would, I will bring it up with the chief of staff and
Seems to me it's a regular city council committee that ought to have high priority.
I will bring that up to the director of communication and chief of staff and get their call on it as we go forward.
Thank you.
Well,
Let them-
while we're mentioning that, the park board has a lot of outings, and historically, they were covered when they went out to look at property and so forth, and potential parks, or deciding whether to select the option of taking money in lieu of parkland or asking for part of the land that the proposed project would involve. And that's sort of a part of those meetings, that there is decision-making going on in the heads of the people who are out there processing it and discussing it. When they get back into the next month's meeting and possibly don't vote until then, that background information is lost, and I think that's important to cover. And it's a nice outing for the camera person too. In many cases, they go to some great places to see. Anyway, since you brought up cover,
Well,
but I agree with the one you're talking
That
about.
wasn't what I was trying to set you up for, but,
Well, that's all right.
no, I mean, I don't think we found the city council tours, so
No, sir.
other committees that would,
Well, yeah.
but fun time, I mean,
Yeah. Planning Commission does the same kind of thing
Yeah.
occasionally.
It
It hasn't been done in quite a while.
Recorded.
But, on agenda session days, we meet downstairs in 111, and then occasionally the staff will want to take us out to a site. And, no, there's never a camera out there.
I think trying to mic everybody and.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Chairman, yes, there used to be on those tours also, city council tour that, park board, all of those. So those are things worth whatever small amount it costs to send a staff member out for 30 minutes or an hour with the tour. It's money well spent for the public's information.
I understand the city has priorities and limited resources, so I'm sure they're using them to the best of their ability.
Just wanted to follow the policies
Yeah.
the council's adopted.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Airy has a motion.
Oh, before we adjourn, we will be losing 3 members of the committee after this meeting, and I don't think we're going to have quorum in July, so we'll just go ahead and plan on not being here for the July meeting.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I checked this with, I believe that you can ask the existing group of members to serve a little longer to give you a chance to operate with a quorum until the new opportunity to volunteer for the committee occurs. And that has been done in the past, and I don't know whether it's been done recently. We haven't had to do it on this committee recently. But, so you don't have to cancel a meeting, as I understand the rules.
What day is that?
If people are willing to serve after, they don't really have to. What you're saying is nobody applied for our positions.
Correct.
And so that maybe that's worth mentioning to the public, that may actually be those people who are interested in what goes on at this and other committees, that they need to step forward if they're interested in volunteer.
If we took
Well
two
said.
positions.
And it pays really
we could
well.
control this.
Yeah. Is there any process for filling a vacancy between the quarterly appointment periods?
Not that I'm aware of, and the questions that I have asked, the information that I have gotten is that there is not anything formalized regarding what Mr. Shepherd just described in terms of asking a member who is no longer on the board to continue to serve. There have been some instances where it's been done informally. I think as an advisory group, that's not necessarily a significant issue. However, I think someone might be able to bring up the issue if they wanted to, that this person has not been formally, appointed or allowed to continue their service by the city council, which is the controlling body. And not that I don't think, I don't think anybody would make a deal out of it, but, that would open up that door to say, well, this person is not officially a member of the board because they did not continue, the city council didn't appoint them, and therefore, are we gonna open that door? Like I said, it's informally, it has been done, continued to go on with that kind of situation. But I don't think there's anything specific in place, policy-wise, from the city that says yay or nay, or how it even is executed.
I agree with you on that, and I know we couldn't transact any business with fill-in members, so I don't think it would do a whole lot of good for us to show up. I know we could do the reports.
Well, per our policy is that, per existing government channel policy, if there's not a quorum and no business can be conducted, we don't cover the meeting.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask leave. I'm going to be absent from the city on the next meeting in July.
Okay.
And I haven't used up all my get-out-of-jail-free passes. So let it be noted that I'm not, well, maybe I am, but that I have other things
Okay.
that'll prevent me from attending.
Okay. Well, we obviously won't have quorum. We won't be covered by the government channel. Y'all want to email reports out?
That'd be fine. No problem with that.
Okay. Well, Mr. Shepherd, you won't be officially on the board,
But I don't have to come.
but you're welcome to come anytime you want.
Oh, thanks.
So we'll just plan on not meeting in July. We'll reconnect in August and try to figure out who all's going to be here.
And I don't see anything on the horizon in the next 30 to 90 days that is, that this board is really going to have to put their minds to and to be examining closely in that time period. So I'm not seeing anything that would necessitate that kind of.
Okay.
Shouldn't, from my perspective, shouldn't be a problem, you guys taking a break for a month.
Okay.
You're still working on the franchise fee information?
The franchise fee information I've been able to find so far, just to give you a quick answer on that, is that some of it is, some of these things are regulated by at the federal level. Some of them are still regulated at the state level in terms of not how a city can charge for the use of its rights-of-way, but specific services. And what I've been able to determine is that these fee structures have been based on service provided. So, for example, 5% of the revenue that is generated by providing video, or X percent of the revenue that was generated by providing electricity, utilizing the rights of way. I was told by a member of our legal staff that it's federal regulation that we cannot charge for the provision. We can't base use of rights of way franchise charges on the providing internet service, and that's a federal regulation. So there are a lot of these things traditionally have been based on what service was provided and the revenue generated from the service, not the actual use, like a per mile fee. And what I've been able to determine so far is it seems to be so complex that I don't know that the city will ever have the capability of getting as many laws changed as it would need to be able to streamline it, unfortunately.
Senator Bozeman won't help us out? Mr. Eric, you had a motion?
Yes. I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that.
On motion and second by Mr. Shepherd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in August.